Good morning. Welcome back to the van build series. Today we are going to be adding on additional clamps to the water piping system. We'll connect up the solar power and run a cable down into the battery. I have also been able to find tubing. So initially I couldn't find this clear tubing at the hardware store, but I did end up finding it in the grey water section. Yeah, so let's start off with the water pipes. I need to test and make sure that the sealant is working and that those clamps can take the weight of the water. I can't remember if I mentioned it yesterday or not, but with the back two fasteners, I intend to loosen them just a little bit so that it puts an angle on the water pipe. That way the water can pull at the end, and I'll have the hose running all the way to the end. Otherwise, if it's laying flat, and the water pipe only comes, like the hosing only comes to here, it's not going to get any of the water that's below it. So by making this end down, it's going to ensure that this part is always full, even if it is on an angle. I'm going to go ahead and fill up the tank, and we'll see if if it leaks at that end, and two, if it falls down. I forgot to mention yesterday when I was measuring how much actually fits in there. It kind of just exploded on my face because it wasn't. The pressure of it just blew the cap off. But I got to 19 bottles before the cap blew off, and I was estimating 20 bottles, so there should be at least 30 litres in there. It was close enough. Okay, so that tank is pretty much full. You can see the water just bouncing in and out. So I'm just going to close that off, and we'll let it sit there all day and see if any leakage comes out of the other end. So yesterday when I opened up the hot water system box to see how all the connections and stuff go, there's some safety hazards that it says that it needs to be mounted outside, but it can't get exposed to the rain. I don't have anywhere like that on the van that this would fit. The other thing was, which it doesn't actually say on any of these hazards, but when I read through the instructions, it needs to be mounted facing up. So this line here, sorry, this one here is a viewing window, so you can see the fire. So it literally burns the LPG gas, the liquid petroleum gas, to heat the water through a series of pipes. So it needs to it needs to be facing up. Otherwise, it's going to burn through the metal rather than the piping. So I had a thought about how to do this, and the only way that I could think up was to mount it on the side of the kitchen. So the kitchen is going to slide out into the outside area. So that would satisfy that criteria of it needs to be outside, it needs to be upright, and it's protected from weather conditions with this. And I'm going to have privacy screens as well. So I think that this is going to have to wait until after I build the kitchen, and then I can mount it on the side. It's unfortunately for me, this means I'm going to be losing kitchen space, cupboard space, because the kitchen can only come up to about here. Otherwise, the door won't close. So it means I'm losing the cabinetry space underneath, which is unfortunate, but hopefully I can make up for that somewhere else. So for now, I also had an issue with the hose connection. It wouldn't fit the tank that was here. That's not the tank that I'm going to use a separate tank anyway, but that connector pin is a bit different to the other LPG ones that I've seen. So I might see if I can get either an adapter or a different hose that will fit into both that and the LPG tank. So when I'm referring to the LPG tank, I'm not referring to this one here. So this one here is only for the van. It's completely sealed off. I can't tamper with it. You have to have a licensed auto LPG mechanic to do that. Not that I would want to mess around with it anyway. Yeah, so unfortunately I can't use that LPG. I have to get a separate tank for that. Okay, so we'll go ahead and make the opening for the piping for the water tank and the solar panel so that it can get from the roof to inside the cargo bay. What I have planned for this is to cut a hole and use these piping tubes, plumbing tubes. So this one here sorry, so I've got 3 different tubes here. This one is just normal PVC piping, like the water storage, as is the end cap. But this one here, this is actually used to shrink a tube. So if you've got a bigger tube going and you need it to go to a narrower tube, this is what this is for. The reason I got this is because it's got this lip here. So with that lip, I can put sealant on that, and it'll waterproof the cut that I make. It'll also hide any imperfections in the cut that I make. Um, so with this, because this is the caps are standardized to specific pipes, and there's no cap that fits on the big end, that would fit. It's meant for piping. So I had to get another tube of piping and cut it off. So I'm just gonna pop that in like this, and then put this one on top. Okay. So the reason I'm doing it this way is so that I can future-proof it for any maintenance. So if I just had the pipe running from in and out the cabin with this, I wouldn't be able to take it off like this. I would have to take the whole structure apart and take it off the van. So I don't want that. The only part that I want fastened to the van is this bit here. Yeah, so if I do need to replace tubes or cables or whatever, I can just take these off and just buy new bits for them once the work is done. So you might be wondering, if that's going to be enclosed, how am I going to get the tubing and the piping in? I'm just going to drill holes into it and then put sealant around it. It should be enough to waterproof it, but I will test that as well. Just having a look to see the best way to run this into the cabin. I think the driver's side would probably be the best, because if I put piping and cables on that side, it might be difficult for the mechanics to get in there. There's not really too much on the driver's side. I'm thinking what I'll do is put it here, and then with that extra piece of piping, I might just line it up against this wall here, and then I will have two separate tubes within that piping, one for electricity and one for water. Yeah, it's probably the best way. Plus, I can also secure the carpeting on that as well to hide it. So let's go with that. I'm really not too sure what to expect when drilling through carpet, but I don't want it to rip off the adhesive that I've already put on there. So I'm just going to do a test run with this to see if it goes through. If not, then I'll just cut slits into it. Yeah, it seemed to work fine. Okay, so that drill hole has come on pretty much dead center of that the ridge. I was just estimating, basing on feel on the other side, but it's worked out. The hole's not that big anyway, so it's not gonna affect it too much. I'm just going to put some painter's tape all around it, because last time when I use the jigsaw. Last time when I used the jigsaw, this metal plate scratched the surface of the rooftop. Luckily, it was just for the vent, and it's hidden anyway. But this time, this is kind of exposed. Okay, this hole is too small for me to rotate the jigsaw. I'm just going to cut in kind of like triangles until I get a big enough space for me to turn the blade. This is what I mean by cutting in triangles. So I'll just keep cutting this way and then this way and then this way and then this way until I get a close enough spot to the end where I can circle it off. Bit of an issue here. I can't turn the blade any further because it's hitting on the roof rack. I'm gonna try and cut it from underneath. Let's see how that goes. So it looks like the blade's not long enough to actually reach it, and I wouldn't be able to maneuver it on this anyway. I'm gonna try and keep going with the circular saw. Sorry, the jigsaw. Hopefully I can get it close enough. If not, I might just use the drill. Worst comes to worst, then I'll go up and buy the circular piece. But they're expensive, and I really don't want to. Let's just keep going. I don't know how, but I managed to navigate the jigsaw around to cut the hole. So it looks fine. Cool. Let me just brush off the metal shavings and we'll go ahead and seal it in. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and seal this up now. So it's just the same stuff as we did yesterday with the water sealant, silicone sealant. Cool, there we go. Okay, all we have to do is wait till tomorrow until the sealant hardens up. But for now, let's continue on with the cable runs and the piping. With the pumps, I'm just going to use the electrical cables from the ventilation fan. Since I need to rewire it anyway, let's just use use that. I need to pull out the cables anyway. So I'm just gonna strip them off and connect it up to the pump. I've got the pump hooked up the same way. I just haven't secured it on, so I'm hoping it doesn't gush everywhere. That pump is working. I can see the water flowing through. I believe it's getting those air holes because I haven't sealed it, whereas the other one was sealed. But in terms of noise, I don't think either one of them is overly loud. So I think I will go with the bigger one, the one that came with the water tank, and I'll keep that as a backup. I'm gonna go ahead now and put the lid on for the top of the car where the water and the solar power will come through. If you remember, I used this drill bit to see what the carpet reaction would be to the drill. If you have a look on the back, this hosing won't actually fit through it, even if I try and squeeze it through. I've created this second hole where the piping can actually fit through, and the way that I've done that is to drill a hole and then so I've drilled a hole, and then to make it bigger, I've just moved the drill into circular motions, and it's made it bigger. That might still be a bit too small. Oh no, it's fit. So there you go. So I plan to do this with the PVC top that I'm going to put on it. Okay, I finished. So that's what it looks like. I've got two holes there, and the piping will just go through like that. I love it when my stupid ideas actually work out. Alright, I'm gonna get the cable ready that runs from the solar power panel to inside the cabin. I don't need to terminate these because these are screw-on ones. And if you remember yesterday, I added the screw-on terminals on the solar panel. So I can leave these exposed, but the cable that I've got, it's both black. So I'm just gonna color code it. They do have different textures. One is rough and one is smooth, and one has writing on it as well. So you can differentiate between them. But color coding, I think, is probably better anyway. this specific cable, I can't use the auto electric cable for this because those ones are 10 and 15 amps, whereas the solar panel charge controller is 20 amps. So I'm going to be losing power. Oh, I'm not going to be generating as much power, collecting as much power if I use a weaker strength cable. This cable here, the guy at the hardware store recommended it. It's used for electrical lighting outdoors. So it's tough enough to withstand weather conditions. Not that it's going to need to, because I'm going to put it in tubing anyway. But if it does get exposed, it's tough enough to handle that. Okay, up on the roof, I've terminated the, not terminated, just color-coded the ends. Let's hook it up. Okay, there we go. Easy as that. With the cabling, as I said, I don't want to leave it exposed, so I'm going to put it in tubing, and that's why I have cut this the same size as this. So I'm going to run this through the water tubing. Okay, I'm finding it difficult to push it through any further. It is very, like, there's not really that much space for it to move, but the further down it goes, the harder it is to push. I'm not even a meter through. Do I continue? I ended up wasting about an hour, just over an hour, trying to push the cables through, but I just couldn't get it. So I put them into separate tubes singly. So I think we've still got an hour and a half to maybe 2 hours to finish up. So let's get this done as soon as we can. Okay, so we've got our positive and negative going through the cap. Okay, so I'm going to run the cable and the tubing underneath the decking just to make it look a bit neater and there's not cables flying everywhere. Okay, so I have the one side of the tubing on this side and one side going underneath the deck and up there, which will go into the solar panel. I am now going to put in some of the water tubing. We'll put the connector that goes from the inside to the outside of the cabin in. Okay, so to join the two water storage tanks, I've got this T connector. So I'll have both ends, both the water tanks here, and then one output here going to the pump. So when the pump draws the water, it's getting an even distribution from both of them. Okay, so got the two solar power cables going this way, and the water one I'm just going to leave up here for now. We'll go to the hardware store, pick up some clamps to secure the ends, and I need to get more tubing anyway. I've been tossing up what to do with the charge controller. I mean, where to mount it. I could put it with the other electronics, but the power gauge to tell me how much is in the battery is on the charge controller. So I'd probably like it somewhere where I would actually see it every day. I was actually thinking here. So I could either put it with all the switches for the lights and the fan and whatnot, but I'm actually thinking here because I probably will see it every day here driving. I could also use that USB and that output cable as well, without having to run extra cables. But on the other hand, it is handy to have it with all the light switches and whatnot. I think if it was a bigger van where I could stand up in, and I probably would be standing in the kitchen, I'd probably put it there. But since I'm going to be cooking and stuff outside, I think I might just put it here. Yeah, let's just put it here. I can always move it later on if I need to. Just before I connect this all up, I am going to put in this piping. I'll just see if it fits. Yeah. So I'll put in this piping, and I need to run the water cable through and a conduit cable for the cables that run through. So I've run the water pipe and a conduit pipe through the plumbing pipe. So I just wanted to make sure that the if the water did leak, that it had no contact with the electrical stuff. So all the electrical cabling is going to run through here, and yeah, the water. It will matter if it springs a leak, but it's not the end of the world. Yeah, so let's connect up the solar panel. The cable that came from the solar panel kit, it has Anderson leads. So these are actually waterproof, and they're made for outside. But I don't like these clamp connections. Well, I don't like them as a permanent thing. So what I'm going to do is to re-terminate this. So I'll remove the Anderson lead and add battery terminals. I think I'm going to have to take the PVC out. It keeps kinking the hose. Yeah, so that's going to stop the water flow if it kinks it. So I'll take that off. Okay, so I have connected the outside line, but it's not connected at the solar panel end. And I've terminated the wire that's running that's going to run to the battery. And we can connect the battery end up. Okay, let's hook it up to the solar panel first. Okay, let's hook it up to the battery system now. Okay, so I've hooked up the positive and negative from what's running into the solar panel. I couldn't film it because it was too awkward. I had to keep lifting and whatnot. But let's just see if it works. Are they lights? Yes. Oh, it's not very bright. It's just the angle I'm at. Cool. Regulator capacity being used. So it's charged at 100% already, the battery. Excellent. That was pretty easy. Let me plug something into that USB and we'll see if that works. Only other thing other than my phone, which I'm using at the moment, that I can find is the lights. So let's have a look. There you go. Turn it off. There we go. Excellent. So I'm very happy with that. Seems to be working fine. I can actually, let's test out this output as well. Okay, so I've got the lights here. Let's just dump them here for now. Excellent. So that's working. Half the LEDs are dead because I keep stepping on it. Yeah. Hopefully the other strip is all right. But excellent. I am liking that. Something I forgot to mention about solar panels is the type of solar panel that you're going to get and the type of charge controller that you're going to get. So there's two different types. The one that I have has very high efficiency. So it's a monocrystalline panel, which means there's only one layer of crystals absorbing the sun. The polycrystalline ones have many layers, but the layers down the bottom, they don't absorb as much sun. It actually dissipates more energy than it's, or not than it's collecting, but the ratio isn't great. Whereas the monocrystalline, it's not losing as much charge. So go for the mono if you can afford it. They're not that much more expensive actually. Maybe like $30 more. With the charge controllers, you need to get the type that is for your solar panel. Most of them these days will be MPPT, which is what I have here. And the other type is called PCB. The MPPT charge controllers, they will regulate it a lot better and harness the energy that's being collected a lot better. I'm pretty sure it's about 30 or 40% better. So basically in a week, you would have, let's just say, a MPPT charge controller can charge your battery at 100% within a week. If you got a PCB one, which has 30% less efficiency, you're going to be waiting 9 to 10 days for a full charge of your battery rather than a week. So I know 30% doesn't sound that bad, but in the long run, 30% of the year, that's basically a season. So you've missed out your whole summer of charge. So do your research when you do it. Find out how much charge you're actually going to need, like what your appliances run, how big your battery is, or how big a battery you want to get is, and how many panels you will need. For my purposes, I'm going to be driving a lot. Australia is huge, so pretty much every day I'm going to be driving, at least a little while, which should charge the battery with my dual battery system, and the rest of the time it can get topped up with the solar power, which is why I didn't get 5 or 6 different solar panels. I just got a high wattage single panel. So I don't think my batteries will deplete at all. Even if I stay in one place for a week, I don't think it'll deplete at all. So I have my plans are to run the fridge probably non-stop. I do like my cold water and beer, more importantly beer. The fridge and my computer. So I will be vlogging, I will be editing videos, so I'll need to make sure my computer is charged, and my monitor. Actually, the monitor doesn't really matter so much. But yeah, my laptop, my fridge, and my devices. So I think this should be enough for me. But yeah, really do your research on what kind of appliances you want, how much power they consume, and how big you need your battery to be. You might need to get 2 or 3 different batteries. If there was more, if I had more people coming with me on my trip, then yes, I more than likely would need 2 or 3 batteries. But it's just me. So for my purposes, it's fine. Yeah, just keep that in mind if you're doing this kind of thing. It's getting a little bit late at the moment, but I think we've still got some time to do some other tasks. I think I want to hook up the pump today. That way I can connect it up to things tomorrow. So I will go up to the hardware store. I need to get the fasteners for the tubing. Otherwise it just leaks, and you saw all the air bubbles coming through before. So I'll go up and get some fasteners. I will actually, since I'm going up there anyway, I'll go get the water filtration system as well. So I want to make sure I've got access to clean water. So let's hook that up tomorrow, because that will be mounted on the wall. Yeah, so once that is hooked up, then I think we'll be ready to start putting framework in for the structures that we need. So the kitchen and the bed, and that kind of stuff. So I'm pleased with the progress that we're making at the moment. So let's catch the last hour of sun and put in that pump. I'm back, but that took a lot longer than I expected. There's peak hour traffic. Um, let us let's go for the plumbing. Yeah, let's put the pump in. I think I'll be mounting up the water tank here, the water pump here. I've got enough room to add piping and stuff on this side, which is where the cables, the tubings will run. Yeah, I don't think there's anything real strategic going in there. Yeah, I think that's a good place. I'm not cutting this hose just yet. I want to connect it up, make sure it's all working fine with this pump before I start cutting ends. I might need to move it somewhere else, I don't know. But I want to connect it up to the water tank before I cut anything. Okay, I think I'm ready to test out the water pump. So this is my test platform. So these are my 2 water tanks. So they run in both the tubes. It'll go to the T connector up here, and then it'll go into that one connection that's running through the back of the driver's seat. Back of the driver's seat, and then through to the pump, and then the pump outside. So I've hooked it all up, but there is a lot of cabling, tubing. So let's check and see if this works. Okay, let's go check and see what's going on. It's blowing air out. Why? Let's hook a bottle up to the other end and see what happens. Okay, so that works. So it's just plugged in back to front. Alright, I'm gonna call it a night here. We will try that experiment again with reversing the tubes, and we'll put it in the actual water tank tomorrow. But we did get through a lot today, so we tested the sealants on the water tanks. We mounted it with the fasteners, the extra fasteners, and it can hold the weight. We connected the solar panel, the charge controller, we ran the cabling and the tubing inside, and we tested out both the pumps, and both of them have worked, and we've mounted one of them. Tomorrow, let's continue working on the pump first. Once that is done, then I will install this water filtration system. I can't put it on just yet because I need to build a kitchen to put it in, but we can build it and test it out, make sure the water's flowing through fine, and hopefully we can get started on the framework for the kitchen as well. Yeah, so let's aim for that. So finish off the plumbing, install water system and framework. Once again, thanks again for joining me.